Welcome to Uncanny X-Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm Stasia.
I'm Producer James.
And we're here to talk about The Wolverine, minutes 10 through 20.
I want you to have like 7 more words in this title.
I know, it feels weird to just say The Wolverine.
Yeah. It is. You want to know what happens in these 10 minutes?
I do.
Wolverine puts down an injured bear and confronts the negligent hunters. He then meets Yukio and flies to Japan.
Aw.
So, how about we talk about Yukio?
We are going to talk about Yukio, but before we talk about Yukio, I feel like I want to go over the concept-based storyline of this movie, because I think
like Wolverine goes to Japan?
Wolverine goes to Japan, that storyline.
Like that's how you pitch this movie to someone who hasn't seen it.
Absolutely. That's definitely what this movie is about. I did want to talk about, because this movie actually, at least at the beginning, starting right now, 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Draws a lot from the original Wolverine comic, the classic 1982 comic.
Literally called Wolverine. This is before
1.
he had like an ongoing. This is his mini series from 1982.
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
Chris Claremont and drawn by Frank Miller.
And this part of the book, for the comic book, is what they pull from for
like
some of this movie.
Literally, the beginning of this 10 minutes and the beginning of that comic are exactly the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, I was rereading it again for this, and I was like, notice 2 things. 1, that miniseries slaps.
It's real good.
So good.
It's real good.
It's super good.
I see why they gave him an ongoing after
that. You're just like, oh yeah, this was so good that people just made Wolverine like a big thing, because it was excellent. I mean, he was also popular and outside of the miniseries, but like, this is a very good miniseries. I also just generally miss miniseries like these, because I went back and I was like, I knew psychologically that this was the introduction of both Yukio and Mariko and the whole Japan thing. But when you read that miniseries, it kind of comes in like, you know, half these people. Like, Wolverine is referencing these people as he's known them.
It's
for a long
not
time.
Mariko's first appearance, but it's the I'd say it's the chunk of what she is.
That's okay.
We'll
that's
get
probably
into
more
it.
accurate.
We'll have a Mariko episode.
Yes, we definitely will.
But you're not wrong, though, because she wasn't as big of a character. This really solidifies her as a character.
Yeah, this is the run where you're like, oh, this is about who she is and what her beliefs are and her backstory, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This miniseries.
Absolutely.
I miss miniseries like these, because I think they're just, it's kind of so weird. And so, like, he just goes off to Japan and does a little thing, and then it does affect the issues going forward. But I do think it was quite interesting. Like, I felt like miniseries now do a little bit a different technique. I think when they're writing these stories, they're not always as like independent of everything else in the same way that this issues are. So
I agree with you, because we brought it up before, but the Exterminators like mini.
Oh my god, it's the best. I love that mini.
It's like, what, 5 issues or something? It has nothing to do with anything in Krakoa.
It's the best.
Not really.
No, not at all.
And it's just like, here's a bunch of characters, we're gonna throw them into this like weird situation, and then that's it.
It's so
and we're
much
just
fun.
done. You're right. We need more of these.
Yes.
Let's have less ongoings.
Yeah.
And more like little runs like this. Like, they've been doing like different characters meeting Godzilla.
Yes.
But the Godzillas are from all different eras, so it's still kind of if you could group them together and call it a miniseries. But it's like a Godzilla miniseries of the Marvel Universe.
Honestly, we're getting into production for Marvel Comics, but like, to me, I feel like this solves the problem of always wanting a number 1 coming out like every 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
If you just made the miniseries that were self-contained, you could still do that and not make the numbering confusing, and then just have like a couple of the long running for the freaks like me.
Yeah.
Like, but in any case, I do think, like, just straight up, I know we like talk about runs that we'd recommend. If you have not read this, you should. If you
The Wolverine mini.
Yes, the Wolverine mini. Well, you should also read Exterminators.
I mean, yes.
Period.
Absolutely. 100%.
It's just excellent.
I might reread that now.
Now that we've talked about it, I'm going to have to. But
you
the
Wolverine
should read this.
one, yes. Like, literally, I had in my notes, I always have like things maybe to talk about or questions for you, because sometimes you know of runs that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if this bear thing's happened before, because it feels like such a cool, like, total comic book thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And then I opened up the book and went, oh, there it is.
Right here. Wolverine number 1.
Page 1. It's a little more aggressive in the comic.
Yes, Wolverine is hunting him down.
It's a little more tragic in the movie, and I think it plays better.
Yes.
Because when you read the book, you're like, why is he hunting a bear for almost no reason?
Well,
there is a reason.
Yes.
They say the reason in the book is that it basically mauled a bunch of people.
That's the reason,
like unnecessarily.
Which is also the reason in the movie.
It is.
Yeah.
But the bear is aggressive still.
Yes.
in the comic. So he has to come at it with aggression, whereas in the movie, he's putting it out of its misery instead.
And he tells the bear that don't make me do this, and then he does it.
Yeah.
It is definitely. I think the movie actually is more sad. I think it's
I think it sets a good tone, because if he's just because he cuts a bear's arm off, it's his first move.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, that's what we're doing.
It is still a comic that was made in 1982.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
like, take that with you.
And it is Frank. That's very Frank Miller as well.
Yes.
I know he didn't write it, but he did draw it. And it does have, if you've ever read all the Sin Cities, you can see certain elements that repeat in Frank Miller art. Not all the misogyny, but not all the misogyny.
No, it is still in there for 1982.
Sure.
It is, which I think is like actually a really good transition, because I think there are some like really interesting parts about the women in that comic that is not quite exactly the same in the movies. It's very 80s. So let's talk about very briefly. I'm not going to go deeply. When you start off the comic book, he is already in love with Mariko in the comic. We've already established she's gone back to Japan, and he goes to Japan. Yukio does not find him in the U.S. to bring him to Japan. This is very important. She doesn't. That's not how they meet.
not answering his phone calls.
He's not answering, and all of his letters have been returned. Yeah. And the embassy that she used to work at in the States or Canada, actually, I think I can't remember exactly. I don't know.
Now.
I'm sorry, Wolverine. I know he's such a proud Canadian. She's gone back to Japan, and so they have no way of contacting her. So he goes of his own volition. I think what's also really important is that the character of the grandfather, so like the guy Yoshida that he saves, he is not in the comic.
No, her father, Lord Shingen, is basically that character.
Yes, he is like the older person in
He's in charge
movies.
Of the clan.
Yeah. Their relationship is similar, though.
Yes.
Like, they're arguing. Well, I don't know if we get to that part in this 10 minutes,
That's
but
okay.
the relationship between between Mariko and her dad is kind of similar to the movie. They kept that too. But like, he's the main character.
Yukio's relationship, though, is not the same with Mariko.
Yes.
So in the movie, they portray her as like almost like a little sister.
Yes.
Or a pet.
Yeah.
A little bit.
bit.
You're a doll, I think they call her, like a child's plaything.
Yeah.
Not the case. She actually works for Lord Shingen in this mini.
Yes. But
unknowingly.
Yes.
Unknowing to Wolverine.
Yeah. Yukio meets Wolverine in the miniseries in Tokyo, and she saves him, put that in quotes, on the streets of Tokyo. Because at this point in the miniseries, he's had a fallout with Lord Shingen, who is Mariko's dad, because their relationship, and we find out Mariko has been married off to resolve her father's debts.
Yeah. And that character is in this movie too.
Yes,
Noboru.
Shingen is
Noboru
is in this
husband,
movie too.
Yeah, he is a fiance.
The
in
fiance,
movie.
Okay,
So in the movie, the fiance is the husband in the book.
Yeah, so they just moved it along a little bit further. In the comic book, Yukio saves him, but secretly from the hand. Correct.
So, all you Daredevil fans out there, the Hand is in this prominently.
The Hand is a major part of Wolverine in Japan. Like, I mean, Yukio also, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but she spends a lot of time with Elektra too. Like, there is a lot of Daredevil crossover with Yukio. I mean, a lot is probably overstating it, but there is some.
I mean, if there's some, that's a lot.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't think she has a ton of appearances. So if
really.
A chunk of them are with the Hand and Elektra.
Almost all of them involve the Hand in some way.
Yeah. Because like her powers are being a ninja, being an assassin.
Yes. That is the other difference.
Throwing poisoned, not daggers, they're like flechettes.
They're like, yeah, they're almost like darts. Yeah, flechettes.
I think they're flechettes. They look just like our archangels, metal daggers.
I do think some of the comics call them darts, but they look like flechettes. They do.
And I will say that word as many times as I can.
That's fair.
So now the only thing is, in the movie, she can sense people's deaths, like how they will die, and that is not in the comics at all.
That is not a Yukio
That
power.
is there are other characters that can do similar things.
Yeah, but not
Yukio.
Her. And not anybody really involved in these storylines, really. Because I double checked, because I was like, is there anybody with Wolverine in Japan that has this power? And it's not really there.
So it very much seems like this movie is based on this mini specifically.
It absolutely is.
But this mini is very down to earth.
Yes.
Short of having Wolverine in it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, that's... I actually kind of like that. Well, short of having
Wolverine in it and then being like a very ninja hand-heavy book.
Sure, but like, it's not comic booky. It's not full of superpowers and like magical this and mystical that, except for the hand disappearing, but that's just a hand thing. Like, when they die, their bodies disappear.
Yeah.
Being able to sense someone's death is not part of this.
Not at all. It is absolutely, like you said, it's grounded.
Cybernetic, we'll get to it later, cybernetic silver samurai are not part of this.
Not in this run.
Viper is not in this.
No. I will say that the book is definitely based on kind of those like feudal Japan retellings of samurai.
Yes.
In the book, they call him a daimyo, which is like, you know, the leaders of like the clans and like sections of Japan who were like ruling, right? Like, these are like really intense. Like, they make a statement about how they had a claim also to the Japanese throne, just as legitimate, which is a crazy thing to say, right? Like,
well, he gets insulted and he's like, I'm Lord Shingen.
This is very important. Yeah, which is like a translation of the daimyo. So the story in the comic book is very samurai focused. Like, that's why it's so down to earth, because it is one of those stories. I think this is really important because Yukio represents a Ronin. She becomes a Ronin because of the fallout of this and is representing herself as a Ronin, which is like, again, there are a lot of like Western comic books that were like inspired by samurai, like stories, samurai movies, things like that. And this is just another one of them, like just like Star Wars in a lot of ways, this run with Wolverine. Yukio in the comic book, she saves him from the street from getting beat up after she's thrown out by Shingen, but she actually is working for Shingen. And this is all a setup in order to do two things. One, to use Wolverine in a plot in order to help her fulfill an assassination for Shingen, and he's in on that part. And then the other thing is that Yukio is jealous of Wolverine's love for Mariko, and she wants him to love her instead, a thing that Shingen does not know about. But also, her goal is to make him look bad in front of Mariko, which is what she does when they complete their assassination. Mariko is there, and she witnesses Wolverine go into this kind of berserker rage. And you get that kind of feeling from Wolverine that, like, she's seen him. She doesn't like him because he's like an animal. He's not human. This is like part of one of those early representations we talked about, where they play with like Wolverine and is he human, is he feral, is he animal. Like, this is like another one of those, but like much more grounded before he turns into an actual like like, you know, animal in the forest or whatever much later in the comics. But
I do like because it's like this Claremont era Wolverine, they do have a description of his claws being in sheaths in his hand.
Yeah, which is like, interesting.
Yeah, it was like bioorganic or some. I forget how he words it, but it is described that the metal sheath, like that it's in sheaths in the hand and not just part of his hand. But I think this may have been before they decided that. I think this is when they think, like, you're supposed to think they were put there and not part of his mutation.
Yeah, I do think that's true. But they retconned that.
Yeah, they retconned it.
Yeah, which we'll talk about, actually. There's an interesting scene about this. This actually succeeds. Their plot succeeds. Like, they commit the assassination. He looks bad in front of Mariko. Blah, 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 blah. What happens, though, what gets them into trouble is that part of this miniseries is him and Yukio running around Tokyo, getting drunk, making out, having a great time for a while. And part of this is because Mariko is married, so Wolverine is on the rebound, and Yukio is very happy to be on the rebound. And this is where you start getting representations of her character that they kind of blow out in later issues, but is, I think, really important is that, like, she is a very much loves to live her life on the edge. She is an assassin. She's been a trained assassin for Shingen and working with the Hand very frequently. And so she is very much that kind of, the thrill of being part of a fighter, a scrapper is what Wolverine calls them, like, very frequently in these issues, is part of it. And I think this is a characterization that follows her forever. Like, this is who she is, and they just really lean on it later and more heavily. During this issue, he finds out she's a double agent. There's some drama between the two of them. He tries to kill her, but then he doesn't, and she ends up saving Mariko. We don't need to go into it. We can talk about that when we talk about a Mariko episode. But basically, they part okay. Like, he realizes that, like, she was a double agent, but she was a double agent. She, like, turned again and didn't kill him and did fall in love with him. And
I was going to kill you, but I fell in love with you.
Exactly. And she saves Mariko, which, makes Wolverine happy. And that's the end of that issue. The end of the issue also is Logan is getting married to Mariko, and that's where that's
how the mini ends. Yeah,
and
it's an invitation to the X-Men to join the wedding.
It's so
which
interesting.
It does continue in a later, isn't it? Just in straight up Uncanny X-Men.
Uncanny X-Men number 172.
Right. So
Mariko and Wolverine, it's their wedding, and I don't want to go into.
No, we'll go into it when it comes to Mariko's time.
There's some Silver Samurai stuff in there.
This is like, we've been saying this mini's fun because it just kind of happens and it doesn't have that much of an effect, but it does too.
Yeah, wedding.
But if they just got the invitation for his wedding, you'd be like,
yes.
There's not like they dated a bunch.
Yeah, the stuff up front, like, it covers so much time because, like, there is a lot of time in between issues of this mini because, like, he's running around with Yukio for a while.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like. And they only get caught because Shingen is mad that she hasn't murdered him.
Right.
I mean, honestly, that's, like, kind of where it goes.
I will admit, all of these characters were not as familiar to me because I didn't read a ton of Claremont.
Yeah.
And especially not Wolverine.
Yeah, I get that.
So, like, I didn't track that this Yukio is the same Yukio from Deadpool.
Oh, yes.
Like, I didn't track that was even the same name. Like, the Wolverine's not one I watch a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen it a handful of times, but it's not one I, like, grasp a lot. I would rather watch Origins.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad and there's so many characters in it.
There's a lot of people.
This one, it's a little more drama. You got to be in the mood for this type of movie. So, like, everyone's relationships with Yukio is not like in the book. So when Wolverine is, like, having a romantic relationship with her, I'm like, no, that's not right. Something wrong here.
Yeah.
It's also interesting. We haven't talked about her appearance that she usually shows up in, because, like, in the movies, it's her very colorful, long hair,
pink. She's also kind of younger too. Like you said,
she's
little
often
sister.
Younger. That's the thing, right?
That is not how she is in the first.
No,
she's older, short hair. Like
she almost has Jubilee hair.
Yes, when the picture at the end in one of the Uncanny runs where Jubilee is in New York and they're in Tokyo, I got confused for a second because I was like, is that why is Yukio there? And I'm like, no, it's Jubilee. They didn't draw them very distinctive. I think that was like
Jubilee,
part of the issues.
if you're gonna have Jubilee and Yukio, Jubilee better have them sunglasses either on or in her hair.
Or like you need to, and the problem is Yukio's age. I mean, we've talked about this, fluctuates a little bit.
Sure. I mean, that's comics.
Yeah. But her original appearance is much more of like almost like a black cat. Like she's like that full black like suit, which makes sense. She's a ninja assassin. So like and she has short hair. Something also worth noting, I don't know where to put this because like I don't really understand like, and I couldn't really figure out why, but there is a point at which they start referring to her as like, they're like, Yukio is a male name. And they call her the woman with the male, the Ronin woman with the male name, because they say in the comics now that her original name was Yukiko, which is a female name, but she transitions to Yukio. I think this is, from my understanding, them realizing they messed up when they named her.
Oh, for sure.
Like, and they were like, well, she chose this on purpose for whatever reason.
I mean, let's be honest. It's a bunch of white dudes trying to mimic Japanese culture.
One of the most annoying thing is that the romanization of hi, which is yes in Japanese, is H-E-I instead of H-A-I. And it bothered me every single time it was in that comic. I was like, that's wrong. I mean, it's not wrong because it's a romanization of like a Japanese character or whatever. But like in my head, I'm like, that's not how you romanize that.
It wouldn't reflect a more accurate pronunciation.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. So.
But yeah, that definitely that is them retconning oopsie doopsie.
And oops, we gave her a male name by accident. Yeah. It's not a huge deal. It doesn't really matter. I want to just go back to some of her other appearances. In case you haven't figured this out, I really like Yukio. I think she's really cool. I think she's really fun. She gives me a Calypso vibe. She kind of has that same energy, but a little less angry. Like, she's just kind of fun. In Uncanny X-Men 312, this is a comic book where she spends a lot of time with Storm, actually, instead of Wolverine. She has made a connection. Reason I brought up 172, the wedding with Wolverine, is that's where she meets Storm, and they kind of have like some good vibes. And then in 312, they actually like bring her back and make this a bigger thing with her and Storm and fill out their relationship. One of my favorite lines from this issue is, she says, you're never more alive than when you're about to die. And I think this is a very important quote when you're trying to grasp the character of Yukio. And maybe part of the reason why they gave her characterization about like how she can see death in this movie. Because she does weirdly have this like obsession with like living on the edge of death in the comic books. And they just kind of personified it a little differently in the movie. Mm-hmm. The reason that issue is really interesting because like you have this really good relationship with Storm. They are fighting off the phalanx, which is not important.
We're
not getting into this. It's a techno-organic alien, okay? Just move on. And also, this is where we get a flashback retcon with Gambit about how Gambit and Yukio actually had met before in Singapore, and they were framing each other for heists that they were doing, and they do not get along.
Love it.
It's quite fun. It's not like a huge like thing, but it's them. It's just like another instance of like them building her a backstory where she's like run across other X-Men before,
right?
Which is what they were wont to do in the 90s and 80s and stuff. I also think that this is where that line is part of this characterization of her that I think we see moving forward, where she becomes this kind of more of the type that rolls with Deadpool. Yeah. Right, a little bit more laissez-faire, a little bit more Domino. Also, in that attitude, I think her and Domino have a lot of overlap. But even less serious than Domino, if that's what I mean. Yeah. Like less mature in some ways, but still generally an ally to the X-Men, even though she was presented originally as kind of this grayish assassin. There is one other major thing that I want to point out, but before we get to that, there's just one issue. There's another Wolverine miniseries where Yukio successfully tricks the Hand into thinking that Wolverine isn't Wolverine because his healing. This is when he has bone claws and his healing factor isn't working.
Sure.
And so there's a miniseries where Yukio, and this is where they talk about her name and her name change being a male name. She says like, aren't you guys just getting tricked right now? Because like, does this even look like Wolverine? Look, he doesn't even have metal claws, and he's not even healing. Maybe the real Wolverine is going to attack your headquarters right now. And they literally leave. It's so funny. I had to like
That's
put
good.
it up because she's just like, it was just like one of those things that I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. This kind of weird thing to do. And also Wolverine has the insane hair. The bone claws era is so funny because the hair takes up like
half the panels. Yeah.
And it's just such a strange.
Funny because I feel like in this movie, his hair is so subdued.
Yes, absolutely.
It almost feels the vibe I get from this movie is that he has uncontrollable colic. Like he literally just can't get his hair to like go down.
Yeah.
At this length.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. I used to have like hair that And like when I tried growing my hair once, there was definitely times where I'm like, I can't get it to go down. I just can't. It won't go.
It won't go. Yeah.
And that's the vibe I was getting off
with
of
the
that.
little like, but yeah, you're not wrong. That is absolutely what it is.
It's funny because I couldn't remember if it was Yukio or Callisto, and both were in the storyline. There's an Extreme X-Men, I'm sorry, Stasia,
it's okay.
run where Storm is in an underground fighting ring battling other mutants, and Yukio shows up to help out, and they're palling around in that. So Yukio comes back to pal around with Storm.
What? I've read that because I think I had to read the entire Extreme X-Men run. I remember that happening now that you mention it. Kind of forgot about it, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, because I think this is the one where Callisto gets like real hot or gets octopus arms or something.
Yes,
it's
the octopus arms.
That's what it was. It's octopus arms.
Yes.
And Yukio is there palling around with Storm, and it seems like there might be a little relationship between the two of them.
I would argue that in 3-1-2 there it feels that way.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, I was like, oh, this is like a Callisto thing, and maybe that's why I drew those comparisons.
Yeah.
It does kind of seem like there's like a romantic angle that we've talked about the Comics Code Authority and how a lot of these things were like suppressed and not able to, but like in my reading, and maybe you know me, my fan fiction, but to me it felt obvious.
Don't we all see this?
This nook, you could cut this tension with a knife, but it makes sense. I feel like Storm ends up in a lot of those relationships because she has that like strong woman archetype, and they match her up with a lot of like these like devil may care, but Storm is also very serious, and they match her up with these women that end up being like who are serious but also kind of like badass in a way.
Sure,
like I don't know how else to say that. Some other things, I know I'm running out of time, but I have to talk about with Yukio. Important thing, Yukio also was part of the Mutant Underground with Xavier, so she's not an official X-Men, but she was like working with the mutant rights activist organizations, so that's like worth doing, and that's the same issue where she's fighting the Phalanx. She also helped save Kitty Pryde when Wolverine went to go get her when she was under the thrall of Ogun, where she gets her other moniker of it's Black Cat, right? For Kitty Pryde.
Oh, that's Shadowcat.
Shadowcat. So she's involved in that too. And also, the most important thing that happens is that, spoiler alert for Mariko's outcome, but I think we talked about it when we talked about like the Wolverine, sad Wolverines women. Mariko dies eventually. And
what?
I know, crazy. At some point, Wolverine and Mariko had adopted a foster daughter named Amiko. And after Mariko dies, Wolverine brings Amiko to Yukio and asks her to raise Amiko. She does so. There are a lot of issues in comics that talk about like their like Amiko getting caught up and stuff. They use that for fodder for like kidnapping scenes in the hand and all this stuff. I don't want to get too far deep into it because it's really about Amiko and not really about Yukio. It's basically Yukio becoming a parent to Amiko and frequently like being a target of Wolverine's enemies. One of those enemies being Lady Deathstrike, who we've talked about it before, and Omega Red. And Yukio ends up losing her ability to walk and getting a message carved into her back.
Yikes.
To Wolverine. So it's not for her. It's for Wolverine.
Well, I mean, if you're carving messages in the back,
right? It's for somebody else.
It's for
clearly.
a reader, not for the receiver.
And this, I think it's really interesting because like Yukio asks Wolverine to kill her when she's in the hospital because this is like she doesn't know how to live a sedentary-ish lifestyle, and not that like she would have to, but because her character is so much about freedom and ability to go anywhere, like Wolverine frequently calls her a tigress because she is able to move within space and jump and do these like acrobatics, and they feel central to her character. So when she loses that ability, she like really struggles to accept it to the point where she wishes death upon herself, which is obviously like a really heavy and I don't think like logical, right? Like feeling, but I think it's reflective of the character they built up to that point, and eventually she does like regain her ability to walk and like recovers because that's how everything works. And that's when she ends up in the fighting arena, I think, in that happens right before Extreme X-Men. I think that's like everything I have. I think I went through it all. She's a really cool character. I wish they would do more with her. She does have a lot of overlap with Calypso, Domino, etc. I feel like she spends more time with Deadpool now. Wolverine always ends up back with Jean Grey. Like, it's when Jean Grey's not around, you get these like interesting other women in Wolverine's life, and like some of them are really cool, like Yukio. But sometimes, eventually Wolverine goes back to Jean Grey, and they're telling those stories again, and then these women end up like kind of disappearing from the stories.
I've just got one more piece of Yukio trivia.
Love it.
She is partially the reason we got Mohawk Storm.
Oh, really? I'm trying to remember.
Storm, she says she's inspired what she calls Yukio's madness and lust for life, and that's when she changes to like the punk look.
The punk look. Okay, that makes sense. Like, I always thought it was a little bit more Calypso because they end up kind of, their romantic tension ramps up after the Mohawk situation, but that's kind of interesting that she goes from Yukio. Poor Yukio. She's always kind of this like rebound before the person. I mean, not that.
Poor Yukio.
She needs. I want her to find her love, man. Like, I will say, I think I like her appearances later. Like, her appearances in 312 Uncanny X-Men, I think is like the version of her I like the best, where she's a little less. In the miniseries, she's kind of getting thrown around by Shingen and stuff. Yeah. In the way that like later appearances, that doesn't happen, and I like that more. But I think it's worth reading the original run because that's just a good miniseries by itself. But yeah, that's all I've got.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, this is Stasia.
This is Producer James.
And we'll see you for the next 10.